Thursday edition, Orange and Blue today. Cecil Lammy, Andrew Mace. It's you with some tight end talk because Mace, we talked to some tight ends today, and the Denver Broncos are talking to tight ends as well.
It's more important the Denver Broncos are talking to tight ends than we talk to tight ends. You don't necessarily make a lot of senior and Shrine Bowl conversations because you've got your scouts and some of your personnel executives down there, and they're having quick conversations with everybody. And you don't make much of individual conversations here and there. What you're looking for is a pattern, kind of like last year, a pattern that the Broncos were talking with all the quarterbacks. And the pattern that we've seen here is the Broncos talking with the defensive linemen who are in the range of 20, talking with the tight ends who are generally reputed to be at the top of the draft class. We already know that they're going to talk with Ashton Genty at running back. We'll find out probably tomorrow about some more running backs. We know they're talking with Ollie Gordon. So it seems pretty obvious, at least right now, where the Broncos' focus is, at least I'd say in terms of their first 3 picks, the day 1 and day 2 picks.
Yes, yeah, day 1, day 2 picks. And you saw the beautiful thumbnail from one Andrew Mason of Tyler Warren wearing number 44 because his dad would show him John Riggins' film.
Yeah, that's cool.
I love that, dude.
Well, Riggins would run over people.
Yes, and Warren runs over people.
Maybe the most famous clip of John Riggins' career in a Super Bowl on 4th and 1, off left tackle, going through Don McNeil of the Miami Dolphins, bursting into the open field for a touchdown that effectively won the first Super Bowl in Washington's franchise history. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Even though obviously fullback / running back versus tight end, that's a good model. That's a good mentality to have.
Mindset.
If you've got the mindset of John Riggins, if you attack with the ball the way John Riggins did, you're going to have a lot of success. So I like hearing that, even though Tyler Warren never got to watch John Riggins. I like the fact that he appreciates him and tries to incorporate some of that into his game.
Yes, prepare your troops for a surface attack, because that's Tyler Warren coming at you, who was asked by our friend Romy Bean about talking to the Denver Broncos, and he said he did. So to get Warren would require, in my opinion, Mason move into the top 10, which seems unlikely at this time.
Yeah, and for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's the capital required to move that far. Number two, unless you're moving up that far for a quarterback, the returns over the last 15, 20 years from that type of trade for a non-QB historically have not been great. Number three, with any deal like this, you have to ask what is the difference between that and the player that you may get if you stand pat, or you may have to trade up for, but it would require a little less. So what is the difference between Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, especially when you're talking about Loveland maybe fitting the Joker aspects of this as well as Warren can. I think Warren's a better blocker, and Colston Loveland talked about having to improve as a blocker to succeed at the next level. There's no doubt about that. But as a pass catcher, are they relatively equal in terms of how dynamic they are?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then are you better off just seeing if Loveland falls rather than moving up and sacrificing? It would probably take at least a first-round pick next year to get Warren. Maybe even your second-round pick this year and your one next year. And that's
rich.
That's a bridge too far. I think poor George Payton might have a coronary if that happened.
Yeah, hopefully Sean doesn't fall totally head over heels and forces some issue. We don't believe that'll happen. And in my opinion, Colston Loveland is the best tight end. Tyler Warren is the best whatever. Swiss Army knife, whatever, and Warren would be graded higher than
H-back
Loveland
/ tight end.
because he could do
and
more.
he can go in line.
He's a better blocker.
So he's your best Y.
But what did
But
Sean Payton
is
say?
Colston Loveland your best F?
I don't think he's an F. I think he's a Y as well. He's just not as versatile as Tyler Warren. But what did Sean Payton say about tight ends? We can take the receiver. We can teach him how to block.
Yeah, that's easy. It's easier. It's easier to
So
do.
does that mean Loveland's more of a target? And again, if Warren and Loveland were on the board at the same time, you take Warren.
Yeah.
But does that mean maybe Loveland, who is kind of becoming the consensus pick in all the mocks for the Broncos?
Possibly. The question is, as your friend Chad Ryder noted, you might have to trade up for him. In his mocks, he's got the Broncos trading up for.
Yeah, well, Cincinnati, and the combine, we get all the.
Cincinnati talked to Loveland.
Hey, did the Bengals talk to you? Guess what happened when Loveland was asked about that? He said yes. The Bengals talked to Tyler Warren. Yes, the Bengals are hunting a tight end. The Chargers behind you hunting tight end help as well. So Mace, it's somewhat of a dangerous game. We're talking about Warren. We need to be talking about Loveland as a player you may move up for as well. Not as far, but to leapfrog in the, Cardinals, Falcons range. That might have to happen.
Well, here's the other thing with Loveland. And Jim Harbaugh, of course, there's the Michigan connection.
Mm-hmm.
And what would Jim Harbaugh sacrifice to jump the Broncos? And this is why, if you really wanted Loveland, you may have to have the conversation about moving up. Not so much because you don't think he would fall to 20, but it would be because you're concerned about someone jumping you from behind.
Yep.
And this is where your draft intel is going to have to come into play as well. If you want Loveland, can you do that? And then the other thing, similar to the conversation you have about the difference between Warren and Loveland, and is it worth the sacrifice? What's the difference between Loveland and Elijah Arroyo, another player with whom the Broncos have chatted?
Yes.
So we know the Broncos have talked here, had formal meetings, not casual conversations. They've had formal meetings with Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, Elijah Arroyo, Terrence Ferguson, Gunnar Helm. Ferguson and Helm, both Denver area products. Helm, you're going to read more about him at denversports.com. Really, I'm not sure anybody would be happier to be a Bronco than Gunnar Helm.
That's awesome.
And that would maybe even include Terrence Ferguson, who's from Littleton and was Bo Nix's teammate at Oregon. He'd be pretty happy as well, but I think Loveland might actually be even happier.
Well, yeah, and Gunnar Helm and Loveland, Terrence Ferguson, no to Aronde Gadsden, who was a high school teammate of Pat Surtain, but formal interviews don't mean they can't bring him in for what we have deemed a flirty 30.
Maybe, yeah.
I like flirty 30.
I don't like top 30 because
they're not
your top 30 prospects.
Right.
They call them top 30 visits, but they're not necessarily your top 30.
Flirty 30. You're flirting with them.
Better than dirty 30.
Yes.
You're flirty 30.
Flirty 30. I like that. We came up with that today.
Well, the other thing is also, because like I mentioned, if a player is at the Shrine or the Senior Bowl, the Broncos have almost certainly had some contact with him, so odds are pretty good the Broncos had some level of contact with Aronde Gadsden down at the Shrine.
Yes.
Where he tore it up.
Yes.
Aronde Gadsden, Rivaldo Fairweather, Luke Lachey. Part of the reason why we're talking about this tight end class being very deep, because they all flashed at the Shrine.
Yep. Lots of choices there.
Yes.
You want to play Gunnar Helm here, or do you want to play?
Let's start
Ferguson?
with let's play or
Loveland.
Loveland. Let's start with Colston Loveland here, talking about his visit with the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I have met with the Broncos. I would say, I'm one of the best route runners in this draft. I truly believe that. I think I got great hands. Obviously, I got a lot to work on throughout my whole game, but I feel like I'm pretty polished and just excited to keep getting better. We were just really chopping up film, talking ball, talking shop. I feel like it was a good meeting. All the meetings have been great.
Plug for our show there at the
A little
end.
extra plug for the show. Good work, Mace. Good work.
Well, I
and
mean,
you notice in the sling,
yeah.
does this, and medicals are the reasons why we're here in Indy. So Does that maybe give somebody some pause, the Bengals, the Chargers, from making a move for Colson Loveland? It's a conversation.
It's a conversation. It shouldn't.
No, it
I
shouldn't.
mean, there's actually there's something floating out there, and I saw it on social media actually when I posted that clip. Oh, no contact for 6 months. People, that's not a big deal. Okay.
Who's
That's people responding like,
Okay.
is it a big deal? No contact for 6 months. If you tear your ACL, you have no contact for 9 months.
Yeah.
Okay. Like you can have an injury at the end of the season. Like let's say you have an elbow injury. Let's say you got a hamstring injury at the end of the season and you're still rehabbing it, and you might not have contact with another player from mid-December through end of July, right? And that's 7 months, and you could be just fine if all the rehab has gone well. Here, the thing is, he'll be able to take part in everything but the contact work. So he'll be able to do the non-contact stuff. He'll be able to do all the walkthroughs. He'll do all the individual work. He'll do the route running. He'll be able to start working on his timing with his quarterback. That's key as well. So I think he'll be able to learn the offense, learn where he needs to be, start getting that down right. It's just the final piece of the puzzle, pulling it all together, that you're going to have to wait until training camp on. But I don't think that's a concern here. I don't think it's going to hold him up too much.
Before we get to the Gunnar Helm conversation a little bit further, Mace, you asked what's the difference between Elijah Arroyo and Colson Loveland? About a year.
Yeah.
About a year. Because Arroyo is going to take a year or two to get going with his development. Very raw prospect. Very athletic, very intriguing. Has the athletic profile of a Jimmy Graham-ish type of player. I didn't see Graham when we saw him at the Senior Bowl, because we've seen Jimmy Graham at the Senior Bowl, and it was awesome. Arroyo wasn't quite to that level. So what you would have is Loveland could start ASAP. Arroyo would be more of a sprinkle him in as the season goes on.
This is a player who had 11 receptions in 3 seasons before this past year.
Yep.
So the body of work simply is not bulbous. And you're going to have to build him up. And sometimes you talk about why is Colson Loveland a 1 and Elijah Arroyo a 2? Well, that's basically the reason why. Mm-hmm. You are making a bit of a projection with Elijah Arroyo. I don't believe in helmet scouting, but I'm sure the thought has passed through the transom of Sean Payton's mind that his 2 tight end jokers in New Orleans, of whom he often speaks, Jeremy Shockey, who was a kind of a joker-ish guy for him in New York as well.
Yep.
And
Jimmy Graham.
Jimmy Graham,
all of 17 catches in 1 collegiate
they
football
were
season.
both Miami guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
Actually, pardon me, he missed Shockey with the Giants. My bad.
Okay.
He missed him by a year. Sorry.
Okay. But there you go. He's got the Joker-like traits and is more of a second.
He had him part of the year. That's right. Yeah, that was the weird year where he got taken off play calling during the 2002 season. That's right.
That's right.
He was there, but it wasn't a great year for Sean Payton. 2002. It's probably not one he prefers to remember, but it did give him a connection with Jeremy Shockey.
Yeah. I wonder what he learned from that. We'll have to put a pin in that and ask him. Maybe
he's talked about it a
sometime.
few times. Like
Okay.
It was a good experience for him as well, because he moved on, and that's what got him to Bill Parcells with the Dallas Cowboys. Mm-hmm. And he's a Parcells guy. That doesn't happen if he doesn't get to, things don't go sideways and he doesn't become available to the Dallas Cowboys.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, Gunnar Helm.
Gunnar
Let's
Helm.
play this clip because it's awesome.
Gunnar Helm from Cherry Creek High School, played for Dave Logan, longtime voice of the Broncos on the radio side. You know him very well. And, terrific tight end at Texas, nice all-around tight end. And I'm not sure anybody could have been more excited about the chance to interview with the Broncos than young Gunnar Helm. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, it was a dream come true. Obviously, I talked to Coach Sean Payton, GM George Payton, A lot of guys like that, would never envision myself being that close and talking to them just about football. But, it goes back to, just dream big, because if you work at it, if you want to achieve it, if you're bold enough to say it, then you're bold enough to do it. So from a young age, I told people that I wanted to play in the National Football League. Obviously, it's coming to fruition this week. This is the first step to getting there in the combine. So just doing my best, really enjoying every second of it.
He was excited today, was Gunnar Helm.
Yes, a lot of charisma. I had a reporter tell me that he could have sold her own car.
Yeah.
You like that?
That's
I like the guys with the charm,
that's
the charisma.
He had the charm,
Excitement.
but excitement was, kind of selling the Texas program a little bit as well, selling the players that were left behind, even selling his old quarterback Quinn Ewers, who of course is in this draft process as well. He did make a point of saying that while it was a dream come true to meet with the Broncos, he's like, well, I felt like I had chemistry with every team that I met. So like he kind of wanted to say that, one of those teams, by the way, they did meet with was the Bengals. So, okay, let's have a conversation here, because we talk about the teams that the Broncos are in the race with to just get into the AFC playoffs, and how there simply isn't enough room for all of them to
Musical
be in.
chairs.
Okay? Somebody's going to be left out. The Bengals were the ones that were standing there without a chair when the music stopped. And they're looking heavily at these tight ends. Mm-hmm. The Chargers, they had a chair. They're looking at tight ends. Chargers are looking at running backs as well. You can basically look at where the Broncos appear to be focused on right now, and the Chargers' focus is very similar to the Broncos. Yep. Tight end, running back, even looking at D-line. By the way, they might be making the mistake, I think it'd be a mistake, of not re-signing Poona Ford, Poona Ford wrecked the Broncos.
Yep.
Both times this year when he went against them. That's a question to ask. As much as you like DJ Jones, if you could get Poona Ford, would you choose Poona over DJ?
I would choose Poona over DJ.
Yeah. I'd try to get both.
I'd get Poona and I'd draft a guy.
You need depth on the defensive line. It's a rotation.
This draft is full of defensive tackles. You don't need DJ Jones if you get Poona Ford.
Well, you want to be able to go 5, 6 deep with quality, right? 5 deep.
Where's
deep.
Jordan Phillips at? Right? Give me some defensive tackles. That's this draft. I'm joked on the air like George Payton. You drop something. It's defensive tackles.
Then you trade the surplus. Like you trade if the draft falls a certain way to where you pick a 6th defensive lineman, then you trade the surplus
to the NFC.
Yeah, but not to Philadelphia. Although they'd probably take it because they're always looking for defensive linemen.
Any trade.
Howie can't get enough defensive linemen.
Howie wants defensive linemen. So, yeah okay. We've come to an intersection, a crossroads.
John Franklin Myers, Zach Allen, Malcolm Roach. Mm-hmm. So let's dream big. Let's dream DJ Jones and Poona Ford, and then, Deon Walker. Now, Deon Walker's interesting because he can actually line up at any of those 3 spots, and he can even be stand up on edge. Mm-hmm. Because he's 328, but he's 6'7".
Yeah.
Or he's 332. He wants to get to 328, 325.
Okay.
Like that's the other thing. Like he's got to,
Everyone needs to drop a few LBs. Hell, Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
We walk a lot, but
we eat a lot.
You enjoy a lot.
That's okay.
Just had a little, some little hors d'oeuvres upstairs.
Yeah,
yes.
Right. Okay, we're good to go there. Tight end conversation's interesting, and the tight ends are interesting. I think that's what we can come away with today. And the Broncos are talking to a lot of them formally.
A lot of those guys were asked about being a part of this deep tight end class too. Like
yes.
This is.
Didn't Arroyo say it's been a minute? This is the deepest class it's been in a minute.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't remember one honestly.
Just like quarterback last year, you had a need, and it was an unusual year. So take advantage of where that intersects and get your guy. Now, when we talk about the depth of the tight end class, it's not just round one. So if you don't get your tight end in round one, it's not like, okay, you're backing away from it here. No, but take advantage of the depth in this tight end class. Get one within the first 2 days. We didn't even talk about Mason Taylor, who was one of the people who met with the media. We didn't even talk about Harold Fanning Jr., who was being discussed as one of those joker types.
For sure.
But mentioned by Daniel Jeremiah last week.
Yep.
That's the thing. How often are we talking about legitimately 8 to 10 tight ends going in the first 3 rounds of the draft? Mm-hmm. And they're all worthy of that. So capitalize on that. Take advantage. Again, you're lucky if you're the Broncos because this draft meshes very well with key needs: running back, tight end, defensive line depth, because that's the third one that's below the surface, but that's where you've got the 3 expiring contracts up front after this year. Take advantage of that and go forth and add.
We've got a need to get the show up on YouTube, and a special OBT2 that will make sure the sound's on. But Mace, before we're out of here, how can folks help us out on YouTube?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never miss
a vid. He's Mace. Follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammy saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Stay frosty.